Hello and welcome to Videologic's Using MS-DOS 4.01. During the next 45 minutes, we're going to look at the latest disk operating system from Microsoft. Before we begin, set the counter on your VCR to 0. You might mark the number at each chapter so you can refer to any section later. Have you ever wondered how your computer knows what's attached to it? How it reads different software programs and runs them? How it keeps your information in order and knows where to find it? All these jobs on your computer are handled by the disk operating system. We call this DOS. The Microsoft Corporation developed the most widely used version of DOS. It's called MS-DOS. There have been many versions of MS-DOS since its first release. The latest revision is MS-DOS 4.01, and it has never been easier to use. This latest release has the added attraction of what's called the DOS shell. The shell gives you DOS command selections on easy-to-use menu screens. There are pull-down help screens always available throughout each menu. With the shell, common DOS commands like copy, delete, or format are quickly and easily available. Even your application programs can be started from inside the shell. In Chapter 1, we'll talk about how DOS manages the computer. Chapter 2 is an overview of the DOS shell. And Chapter 3 looks at the DOS utilities available in the shell. In Chapter 4, we'll cover the shell file system. And finally, in Chapter 5, we'll find out how to customize the DOS shell with your own programs and commands. DOS stands for Disk Operating System because disk management is the basis of your computer system. Without the ability to store information, your computer would be of little value. Computer information called data is stored magnetically on disks. We use different types of disks to store data on personal computers. Large amounts of data are stored on a hard disk. Hard disks are located inside a hard drive and are not removed or inserted when you use your computer. The hard or fixed drive may be inside or outside your computer. Information is placed on the hard disk through the DOS commands and then retrieved when needed. Hard disks are used to store large data files and programs. Although many people consider hard disk storage permanent, it's just as easily lost or damaged as data on floppy diskette. Any information on a hard disk must be protected by making a floppy diskette copy. Floppies are either 3.5-inch or 5.25-inch diskettes. We remove or insert floppy diskettes into a floppy drive. Data can be copied from the fixed drive to the floppy diskette or from the floppy diskette to the fixed drive. You can also copy data between two floppy diskettes. Floppies are an easy way to move information between personal computers, usually to load new software or save data. Use floppies to store data for safekeeping in case of damage to the hard disk or as an extra storage place when data is no longer needed on the fixed drive. Personal computers usually have a hard drive with one or sometimes two floppy drives. DOS uses special symbols to identify these different disk drives. The first floppy drive is always called the A colon. If there's a second floppy drive, it's called the B colon. The hard drive is always called C colon, even if there's only one A drive and no B drive. Through DOS commands, it's possible to work with your disks. You can prepare them for use, read them, and add or delete information. DOS gives you access to your disks and the ability to manage them efficiently. A common DOS routine used in disk management prepares the disk to work with DOS files. We call that formatting a disk. Another common use for DOS might be to copy all the files on one floppy to another floppy diskette using the DOS disk copy command. The disk compare command verifies that one disk is identical to another. This is especially useful after a disk copy to quickly confirm all files have been copied accurately. If you have a hard disk, you'll protect your data from damage by making a backup onto a floppy disk. To replace data on a hard disk from a backup floppy, use the DOS restore command. These are some of the more common DOS utilities. A little later, I'll show you how DOS 4.01 makes using these routines easy by placing them in the DOS shell. Let's take a closer look at the data on your disks. When we save information to a hard or floppy disk, we give that information a name so we can find it later. DOS calls this a file name. File names have two parts. They're separated by a dot or a period. The first contains up to 8 characters or numbers with no spaces. The second part is called an extension. An extension has up to 3 characters. Again, the two parts are separated by a dot. Extensions help organize files or identify types of files. DOS uses some file names and extensions to identify its own files. OGS, clock with a dollar symbol, COM1, COM2, COM3, COM4, CON, LPT1, LPT2, LPT3, LST, null, and PRN are all reserved DOS file names. DOS also has certain extensions like BAT, EXE, COM, SYS, and BAC that are special functions. If you choose file names carefully and plan your extensions, finding files is really quite easy. Grouping data files on carefully labeled floppy diskettes helps organize your information. If you use high-capacity floppy disks or keep all your files on hard disk, finding a file quickly may create a little problem. DOS provides a better way to organize your files, called directories. Directories group families of file names under a name you assign, like putting many letters or documents into a single file folder. If you have a lot of data to manage, directories can even be used to organize other directories. We call these subdirectories. Directories separate our files and let us work with smaller groups. To locate a file, though, we need to know its path through the directories. Let's look at how directories are structured and how to write a path for DOS. We use the term tree to describe how directories are built. Like a tree, all directories start at the root. The root directory contains the files that start DOS. DOS uses the / symbol to represent the root directory. Other directory and subdirectory names are entered with a / separating each subdirectory name. To specify a path to a file, we tell DOS 3 things. First, we specify the disk drive, A:, B:, C:, D:, or whatever. Second, enter the directories and subdirectories leading to a file, starting with the root. Then, after the last directory name, enter another / and the file name, including the extension. DOS now knows which disk drive to search and which directories lead to your file. Directory, or dir, is also a command in DOS. To display a list of all files in the current subdirectory, or to find out which directory you're in, type dir at the DOS prompt. And the screen shows your subdirectory's contents, just like a phone directory lists all the names and numbers for a section of the city. DOS also gives us control over our information through other commands. We can copy, rename, and delete files, and create or remove directories. We can even set a DOS attribute on a file to change how it's displayed or used. We'll look in detail at all these DOS commands a little later when we discuss the DOS shell. MS-DOS 4.01 allows easy access to your directory tree and files through the shell file system. Let's take a look at the new DOS shell in Chapter 2 and the advantages it offers. The shell organizes the most common DOS commands into a simple-to-follow set of menu screens. In addition to performing DOS utility functions like copying or deleting files and directories or formatting diskettes, the shell also lets you add and run another software program or perform your own personalized routines. Even without any special customizing, the shell is ready to start application programs, perform disk utilities, and manage your file systems. When you boot up your system by turning it on, DOS presents the shell main menu. This screen is titled Start Programs. Before we look at all the different information on this first screen, let's talk about how to move around in the shell. The DOS shell is designed to move through the menus and make selections using either keyboard commands or a mouse. If you use a mouse, selecting screen options is as simple as pointing the screen arrow at the item and clicking once or twice. Use the click drag, double-click, and point mouse functions to select and scroll through menu screens. Refer to your logic notes for definitions of these terms. From the keyboard, use the arrow keys to highlight one of the list items, and F10 to choose an action for your selection. On some of the following screens, you'll also be using the Tab key and spacebar to move through and select screen options. Use the method you're most accustomed to on your computer. During this demonstration, we'll use the keyboard commands. Logic Notes contains a list of the keys and key combinations used in Shell, so keep it handy until you're familiar with them. On the left-hand side is an action menu bar with 3 selections: Program, Group, and Exit. Shell lets you add single programs or add a group of related programs under one name. You may also exit the shell from this menu bar. The current time and date are displayed in the top corners of the screen on either side of the title. Under the time in the right corner is the F1 Help key reminder. Use F1 at any time for a pop-up window of information about your current screen selection or DOS command. These information windows are also called dialog boxes. Keys and other options in Help are displayed in the dialog box for easy reference. The Escape key cancels the Help information. During any command sequence or selection, remember, the Escape key lets you cancel your routine and return to the previous screen. In the body of this screen, you see the title Main Group. Listed below are some basic routines: Command Prompt, File System, Change Colors, and DOS Utilities. Listed along the bottom of the menu are 2 key commands. Shift F9 exits the shell and takes you to the system command prompt. The F10 key highlights the action menu bar. These actions, Program, Group, and Exit, each contain pull-down menus to help you start, add to, or edit programs and groups. The cursor arrow keys move the highlight through each of the 3 possible actions. Pressing the Enter key pulls down a menu showing the available options in bold. You select an item from the menu by moving to that item and pressing Enter again, or by pressing the underlined letter. Let's exit the shell program using the action menu. Use F10 to move the highlight to the action bar, and then the cursor arrow to move over to Exit. Press Enter. A menu appears with 2 selections: Exit Shell F3, or Return to Start Programs. Highlight Exit Shell and press Enter, or just press F3 to exit the system prompt. The screen now shows the standard system prompt. DOS 4.01 performs any of your commands typed to this prompt, just like any previous versions of DOS. Normally, you would only use the exit command when you did not want to use the shell again. Now, to return to the shell, we must start the shell program again by typing the command DOS shell. The shell main menu reappears, ready for you to use again. There's an easier way of exiting the shell, getting the command prompt, and returning to the shell. If you need to quickly exit to the system prompt and then return to shell, use the Shift F9 key combination shown on the bottom of your screen. Shift F9 from any screen in shell takes you immediately to the command system prompt. Notice it says you can return to the shell quickly by typing Exit and pressing Enter. The shell returns you to the same screen you were using when you exited to the system. And now let's look at the 4 items listed in the body of the main menu. These items are ready to use when you load the DOS shell. Change Colors lets you change how shell looks on the screen. The File System provides an easy graphic presentation of all the files and directories on your computer with pull-down menus to help you manage your files. DOS Utilities is a group of the most frequently used DOS commands mentioned in Chapter 1. The 3 dots following the name identifies a group of commands or selections rather than just an individual program. Shell even provides another means of exiting to the system prompt from this list by choosing Command Prompt. Like Shift F9, Command Prompt exits to the prompt, but allows you to return to shell simply by typing EXIT. You may want to use a DOS routine not included on the shell menu. Of course, you can add any frequently used command to your shell list, and we'll see how to do that in Chapter 5 when we learn how to customize the shell. But to use a command not found in the shell, like the DOS check disk, Use the Shift F9 key from anywhere on the shell or press Enter at the command prompt in the Start Program screen. Let's run check disk before we return to shell. You might want to use check disk to see how much room is left on a disk before saving any new files to it. Check disk is also used to identify problems on a disk. Start by typing check disk A: at the prompt, then press Enter. DOS reads the diskette in the A drive and displays the size of the disk and how much RAM, or random access memory, is available. To return to shell, type Exit. The shell main menu screen returns. If you have a color monitor and graphics adapter on your computer, you can take advantage of the Change Colors option. Use the left and right arrow keys to page through the 4 color schemes available in shell. Press Enter at the color selection you like, and the Start Program screen is displayed in your new colors. You can see how easy the DOS shell is to use. In the next chapter, we'll select the group titled DOS Utilities and use some of the more common DOS disk commands from the menu list. On the shell main menu, DOS Utilities is in the title list, followed by 3 dots. To see this group, highlight the item and press Enter. The screen now shows the 6 selections contained under the title DOS Utilities. In addition to the DOS command routines mentioned in Chapter 1, we have another title on the menu: Set Time and Date. If your computer does not store the time and date, or you need to change the internal time or date used by DOS, just select this item and enter the new settings. The 5 remaining items on the menu are used to prepare disks for information, copy and compare floppy disks, and back up or restore fixed disks, as discussed earlier. But let's start at the beginning. You have a box of new, unformatted diskettes, right? Before any data can be saved on them, they must be formatted. Formatting prepares a disk by marking it into tracks and sectors, something like a seating plan for a stadium. It also creates the root directory, where DOS keeps its startup files and builds a file allocation table called a FAT. DOS uses the FAT to locate data on the disk, like an usher at a concert or sports event with a seating plan. A disk should need formatting only once unless there's been damage to the file allocation table or the data on it. Reformatting a disk must be done carefully. Now, when the disk is formatted, all the old data is lost forever. DOS shell provides a format routine to simplify disk preparation. Select Format from the list. A dialog box appears allowing you to select the disk drive. The floppy drive A: is always the default. Formatting the hard drive C: would remove all information from your computer and is done only under the most extreme circumstances. If you ever need to reformat the hard disk, check your DOS manual for details. Use F1 Help for assistance with additional information used when formatting. Depending on the type of disk and floppy drive on your computer, you may need to add special instructions called switches to the format command. Some of the more common switches are listed in logic notes. These are entered after the drive specification. Press Enter to begin the format routine. The menu screen clears and now displays a prompt to insert a new diskette into your floppy drive. Follow the directions and press Enter. When the format is complete, you're asked for the optional volume label or name to give this diskette. Enter up to 11 characters for the label, or just press Enter to leave it blank. DOS then lets you continue formatting diskettes. When you're finished, choose In at this prompt, and you return to the DOS Utilities screen. The diskettes you've formatted are now ready to receive data. DOS lets you format and copy information all at once with the disk copy command. We use disk copy to make an exact copy of one floppy disk to another floppy disk. Remember, all the old data on the destination diskette will be lost with disk copy, just as with format. Select disk copy on the DOS Utilities list. Since disk copy is only used with floppy diskettes, a dialog box appears requesting both the source and destination disk drives. Normally, these would be A: for the source and B: for the destination. On a single drive system, disk copy can be entered with A: as both the source and the destination. If no drive is entered, disk copy uses the default drive as if there were only one drive, prompting you to change the source and destination diskettes as required. As with format, disk copy lets you continue duplicating floppy diskettes. When finished, type N to the Copy Another Diskette question and return to the DOS Utilities menu. Another useful DOS utility is Disk Compare or Discomp. After duplicating a floppy disk with disk copy, use Disk Compare to check the copy for accuracy. Select Discomp from the DOS Utilities menu and enter the drive specifications for comparison, usually A:, and B:. On a single drive, enter only A:. With one drive, Discomp prompts you to change diskettes and quickly compares the contents of both. When completed, a status message appears, followed by a prompt to compare another diskette. When all the comparisons are finished, answer N to the prompt and return to the DOS Utilities menu. These three commands, format, disk copy, and disk compare, relate directly to floppy disks. If you have a hard disk, DOS provides two other commands to help save and replace information: backup and restore fixed disk. Backup saves the data you specify from your hard disk to a floppy, or series of floppies, in a file called backup. You must use the restore command to replace this data onto your hard disk. The shell backup fixed disk command also formats the floppy diskettes as it copies. Before selecting this command, make sure you have enough diskettes available to complete the process. A hard disk with 10 megabytes of data requires approximately 28 360K diskettes for backup. Choose Backup Fixed Disk from the menu. The dialog box appears with default parameters set up to backup all files on the hard disk to a floppy in drive A. You may choose to back up only certain files by specifying the path to your particular files here. Press Enter when you have made your entry. You're warned before continuing that any files already on the floppy diskette will be lost. Each floppy diskette is formatted before files are transferred. The files are then listed on the screen as they're copied. When a diskette is filled, DOS prompts you for another. Label the diskettes as they are completed and put them away till you need them. You can control the backup and restore commands with switches too. Switches in the command line give you control over dates and types of information to be backed up or restored. Logic Notes contains a list of some common switches with definitions. You may want to review these before you use backup and restore. To restore files from a backup diskette, select Restore from the DOS Utility menu. The dialog box appears with the same default parameters as backup, but in reverse order. The source drive is now A, your floppy diskettes, and the destination drive and path are now all the files on the hard disk, C. When you press Enter, the screen clears and a prompt appears to insert the first backup diskette in drive A. Continue following the prompt for the next backup diskette until the restore is completed. All the restored files will be listed on the screen as they are copied back to the hard disk. To return to the DOS Utility screen, press the Enter key. Each of these selections simplifies the management of your hard and floppy disks. With the built-in parameter windows, you can use these powerful commands with confidence. This group of DOS utilities can also be expanded with other commands and programs to tailor it to your own needs. But for now, from the DOS Utilities screen, press the Escape key and let's return to the Start Programs main group. The DOS Utilities gives us access to the actual disks. The information on the disks, however, can also be managed through DOS. In Chapter 4, we'll also be looking at the shell file system and how it helps us manage data. Earlier, we used the DOS command dir to display a list of the files contained in a directory. Let's look at what that list has told us about those files. With the directory command, we can identify the current drive and directory title. The files of that directory are listed with the size of each file in bytes and the date that file was last saved. At the end of the list, the total number of files and space remaining on the hard or floppy disk are also displayed. In earlier versions of DOS, this was the only way to list files in a particular directory, and this was all the information available to us about those files. The new DOS shell file system provides detailed access to the directories and files. Let's see what it offers. We enter the file system from Shell's main menu. The title line on the screen contains the date and the time with the F1 help reminder just below. The F10 and Shift F9 functions are listed across the bottom. The body of this screen is divided into 4 main areas. The menu bar appears just below the title and has 4 possible actions: File, Options, Arrange, and Exit. Next is the drive identifier. Here you select the drive to work on. A directory tree is displayed on the left side of the screen. A file list for that directory is listed on the right, showing the size and the date of each file. As you can see, as soon as you enter the file system, the screen already displays all the information provided by the dir command, plus more. The file system provides a picture of how DOS has organized your directories and subdirectories. Notice how the tree starts at C:\\, which is the root directory. All other directories branch out from that point. The current directory selected is displayed above the directory tree, and a checkmark appears beside it in the list. The file list displays all the files in the selected subdirectory. Use the tab to move the cursor to each of these 4 sections. Once you're in any area, then use the arrow keys to move through that area. Press Enter to select a new directory. The files for that directory appear on the file list. This display can be arranged to show a single directory, 2 directories at once, or to list detailed system information for all the files. Use Tab or F10 to move to the menu bar, and press Enter at Arrange to see these 3 menu items. Each changes the display as shown: Multiple File List, System File List, and Single File List. You can modify the file list through the Options item on the menu bar. Select Options to see the pull-down menu selections. Display Options lets you choose which file to display and how those files should be sorted. Show Information gives a detailed list of file information for a highlighted file. The File Options item is automatically set to ask for confirmation of any delete or replace command. You may decide to use the 3rd item, Select Across Directories, if you work with multiple directories. File System also gives you the tools to create, rename, copy, or remove directories. To create a directory or a subdirectory, select the parent directory from the directory tree. Let's add a directory called Games to the root directory. Pull down the File menu and select Create Directory. A dialog box appears requesting the new directory name. Directory names are like file names, 8 characters with an optional extension. The extension is usually not used. Directories stand out from files more easily if there is no extension on the name. Press Enter after typing the new name, Games, and the file system screen returns with your new directory. To change a directory name, select it from the directory tree. Let's change a word processing directory from WordProc to Word. Enter the File menu and choose Rename. Complete the dialog box with the new name Word and press Enter. The directory now appears on the tree renamed. Copying or deleting a directory involves working with the directory files first. Let's see how File System helps us manage those files. The DOS shell really shines in file management. Let's select a file to view first. From the root directory, tab to the file list and use the arrows to move to the file AutoExecBat. Use the spacebar to select this file for an action. F10 highlights the action menu, and the Enter key pulls down the file menu. Select View from the menu and a window appears listing the contents of the file AutoExecBat. Page up and page down allows you to scroll through a long file. You can't edit the file from this window, but it does let you preview a file before selecting it to work on. Escape returns you to the File System menu, ready for the next selection. If you need to work with all the files in a directory, use Select All from the File menu. All files are highlighted for use. This is particularly useful for copying to a new directory or deleting files before removing a directory. To remove the Select All, simply choose Deselect from the same menu. To copy or delete a directory, you first need to copy or delete files. Let's copy a directory first. We'll copy the directory Word to a new directory, WP. It's a subdirectory of programs. Decide first where to place the new directory. Select the parent directory, Programs, from the tree, and use File to create a new directory, WP. Return to the tree and select the directory Word to copy. Use Select All to highlight all the files. To copy only some of the files from Word, use your arrow keys to move down the file list and press the space bar at each desired file name. Then, also from the File menu, choose Copy. The selected files of Word appear on the first line of the dialog box, ready to be copied to the directory you specify in the To section. Enter the complete path name of the new directory starting from the root, /programs/WP. When you press Enter, all the files listed are copied to the new directory, and you return to the file system. To move a single file or a group of files from one directory to another, follow the same procedure, choosing Move from the File menu instead of Copy. The selected files are removed from the original directory and placed in the new directory. You can copy partial directories by selecting the only specific files before choosing Copy. Remember to deselect the files in the original directory before continuing to another action. Let's try to delete the directory Word now that we've copied all the files to WP. DOS will not delete a directory that still contains any files. Before removing a directory, all files in that directory must be deleted. After choosing the directory you want to delete, select all the files from the File menu. Return to the File menu and choose Delete. A dialog box displays all the files in Word. Because the Options menu was set at Confirm on Delete, another dialog box appears when you press Enter, asking you to confirm your choice. The default is set to Do Not Delete. Choose number 2 to continue with the deletion of the files. When you return to the File System menu, the directory Word is still in the directory tree, but there are no files in the file list. To remove the directory, enter the File menu again. When you choose Delete, the Confirm dialog box appears. Choose to delete the directory and press Enter. Now, when you return to the File System menu, the directory Word is no longer listed. You may decide to change the name of a file to make it more descriptive. Shell provides an easy way to do that too. Select your files from the file list. Enter File and choose the Rename option from the menu. A dialog box appears with the first file name displayed. If you've chosen more than one file, a status line counts the files as they're renamed. As each file is presented on the screen, enter the new name and press Enter. MS-DOS lets you place special attributes on a file to change how it's normally displayed or used. Attributes help you protect information by hiding the file from a directory display, by allowing the file to be read but not changed, or by allowing backup copies to be made. You can quickly check attribute settings for any file by using the Show Information command in the Options menu. The assigned attributes for a file are shown by initials, H for Hidden, R for Read Only, and A for Archive. You can prevent a file from being backed up by removing the attribute setting. Shell also provides an easy menu to help you add or change file attributes. Choose the file or files to be changed from the file list. Pull down the File menu and select Change Attribute. A dialog box appears with two options. Choose the first option. Change selected files one at a time to set different attributes for a variety of files. Use the second option. Change all selected files at once to make the same change to all the files in a group. Press Enter to continue. The Change Attribute dialog box appears with the first of the selected files displayed. The attribute settings are listed with any active attribute marked. Use the space bar to add or remove settings for the listed file and press Enter. The Print command in File lets you quickly select up to 10 different files for printing. Simply choose the files from the file list and select Print from the pull-down File menu. A message appears as your files are printed. Now, the last two items on the File menu, Associate and Open, have special functions when you start application programs from the shell, even without customizing the program or group menus. By the way, an application program is any file that contains lines of code or instructions that perform a specific job. Word processing, databases, spreadsheets, and games, they're all examples of common application programs. In MS-DOS, each of these programs contains at least one file with the extension COM, EXE, or BAT. There may be other files used by the program, but only the command, execute, or batch file contains the computer instructions that will start a program. Every program has a command to start it from the DOS command prompt, usually just a word or some initials. You can exit shell and use the DOS command prompt to start an application program, but shell also lets you open or start any application from inside the File menu. To open an application program, move to the directory and file list that contains the program. Select the file name that has the COM, EXE, or BAT extension from the list. From the File menu, select Open. A dialog box appears with the file name displayed. If you would normally enter special options at the DOS command prompt to start this program, you enter those here as well. Press Enter and the program begins. When you exit your program, you're automatically returned to the shell. Wasn't that easy? But there's more. Shell lets you associate other files with a COM, EXE, or BAT file. In other words, you can open any file used by an application program, and that program will start automatically. Let's see how this would work with a word processing program. Normally, you start your word processing program, then retrieve a document to work on. Associate saves you that step by retrieving both the document and the program when you open the document file. The Associate command does this using file name extensions. To set up Associate, choose the application program, the COM, EXE, or BAT file from the file list. In the File menu, select Associate. A dialog box appears with the selected file name displayed. Enter the file name extensions you use with this program for word processing. TXT or DOC are common endings. You may enter up to 20 different extensions for each program selected, but an extension can be associated with only one program at a time. Press Enter to save your entries and return to the file system. Now let's see how well it works. Select the directory WP that now contains your word processing document files, the files with the extensions you listed for Associate. Choose one of those documents from the file list and open it from the File menu. Shell opens the program file as well as your document file. Your document directly appears on the screen in the program. When you exit the program, you return to the shell. And it's quite a time saver, isn't it? Just remember to associate different extensions with each application program. Even without any further customizing, Shell is ready for you to use to manage disks, organize files, directories, and run any program on your computer. Let's return to the Shell main menu by pressing Escape. There may be special programs or routines you use frequently and would like to start directly from the Shell main menu without going through File System. In Chapter 5, we'll customize this menu with other programs and groups. You can add either individual programs or groups of programs to your Start Programs menu. By including an application on this menu, you can protect it with a password and also write your own personalized help information. The shell lets you add programs with easy-to-follow dialog boxes and detailed help screens for each option. You'll need some special information before you customize the shell with your particular programs. For example, DOS needs the disk drive and path to find the program, and the file name or command that starts it. Let's collect the information we'll need. First, let's see which disk drive contains the program. Second, starting with the root directory, list every directory and subdirectory leading to our program file. Third, We need to know the file name or command that starts the program, usually just a word or some initials that you type on the screen. Check the program manual for the proper command if you're not sure of yours. Have this list available when you start adding your programs. Before you add to your menu, though, decide whether to list the item alone on the main menu or under a group name with other programs. Earlier, we added a directory, Games. We'll assume that directory contains a game program called Car Race. Let's look at how to add a new group, Computer Games, to the main menu so we can play Car Race from the shell. Groups must be added from the Start Program's main menu. To create a new group, select Group on the menu bar. From the pull-down menu, choose Add. The dialog box appears with 4 information areas. The first 2, Title and File Name, are required by Shell to set up the menu. The last 2, Help Text and Password, are optional. The name you enter in the title line appears on the menu list. It may be up to 37 characters, including blank spaces. Let's enter Computer Games. Press Enter to continue to file name. The file name is the group name used by DOS for this set of programs. It may have up to 8 characters, just like any other file name, but no extension. DOS adds its own extension, .meu, to this entry. We'll call this PC Games. If these 2 areas are not completed, DOS will not allow you to create the group. Type any additional information or instructions in the Help text box, up to 478 characters. This entry is automatically formatted to appear in a Help window when you select F1 Help for this group. Press Enter to move to the password box. You have the option of entering a password to control access to this group. If you assign a password, be sure to write it down and store it safely. There is no way to find a forgotten password. When you're finished, press F2 to save the new group. Now the Start Programs list displays the title you've entered, Computer Games. It's followed by 3 dots. Remember, this shows a group. This new group is empty, though. You haven't added any programs to it yet. To add programs to a group menu, first highlight the group name and then press Enter. The screen displays the contents of that group. In this case, it's empty. A group can contain up to 16 different programs. Let's add the game Car Race to our group. Now choose Programs from the menu bar and then Add from the pull-down menu. To add programs at the main menu, select Programs and Add from the Start Program screen without going to Group first. The routine for adding programs is the same. Again, there are 4 areas on the Add Program screen. The first 2 are required, the next 2 are optional. Enter the title you want on the menu for this program, Car Race, then press Enter to move to the command line. The command line contains all the file names necessary to start the program. Generally, only the 3 items mentioned earlier are required: the disk drive, the path name, and the start command or file names. The first entry is the disk drive. Enter the drive DOS needs to check for your program, then press F4. F4 places a separator between each part of the command. Next, we tell DOS to change to the directory containing your program. Start with the DOS command CD for Change Directory, followed by a backslash and the path name. You don't need to type the file name, only the directories. Press F4 again to end this part of the command. Now enter the start command for your program, just as you would from the DOS system prompt. Press Enter to complete your command line. F1 Help contains detailed information on the type of commands available in this command line. Once you become more familiar with your computer, you'll be able to enter quite advanced information in this section, including prompts, windows, and other specialized programs. Now you can continue entering help instructions and any password protection. These are optional areas available for your convenience. Press Enter at each line to leave it blank. When you finish, press F2 to save your entries and return to the main screen. Your new program is listed on the group menu just as you entered it in the title line. There are also other commands available to help manage these menu entries. The display of programs in a group can be reordered by using the Reorder option on the group menu. Programs can be copied from one group to another with the Copy command on the Programs menu. Change or delete programs and groups from the menu list through the commands on the pull-down menus. Delete does not remove the programs from the computer, only the title from the menu list. Customizing your computer system with DOS shell is probably easier than you've ever imagined. Try it with programs you're familiar with first, and as you become more experienced, you'll have everything easily listed and quickly available right from your DOS shell menus. You know, with the addition of the shell, DOS is more than just a computer utility tool. DOS works in everything you do on your computer, whether you're working with disks, files, and directories, or running programs. DOS is there to help. You know, we've looked at the MS-DOS 4.01 from the basics of what DOS is and how it allows us to use our computer to the many advantages of the DOS shell. With the shell, you can maintain your disks and your computer with confidence. You can manage files efficiently and use your programs easily. Remember to keep your logic notes handy as you go to your computer. And don't forget, DOS provides detailed help for every screen and command by just pressing F1. I know you'll enjoy working with the new DOS 4.01, so long and good luck.